Hi everyone. Today I'm gonna finally get around to doing a tutorial on how to play I'll Be Your Mirror by the Velvet Underground. So, before I begin, there are two ways you can play it. There's a very simplified version and one that's a little bit more complicated. I'll start off with the very simple version. So in a simple version, you only really need to know the following chords. G major, so G, B, D, G major. You'll also need to know C major, which is C, E, and G. You'll also need to know D major and A minor. And if you know these chords, you can basically do the song. So, the beginning of the song starts off with this instrumental. It sounds like this. So that's the instrumental, and that's really easy, okay? All you have to do is play G major with your left hand, so G, B, D, okay? Right hand plays G and B, A, G and B, so G major, C major, and then you repeat that 4 times, so G major, C major, G major, C major. So all I'm doing with my left hand is playing the G major chord, so just G, B, and D. And I kind of alternate between my middle finger and my thumb sometimes. And then when I play C major, I just play it in a tetrad, which is just 4 notes, C, E, G, and C. Okay, so it's very easy. I mean, it's just 2 chords, G and C, okay? So you do that 4 times, and then you end off with D major. So watch this. G major, C major, and at the very end of the instrumental, we move on to D major. So moving from C major to D major is really easy. Your left hand really just shifts up by approximately 1 note each. Okay, C major, D major. Alright, so watch this. Here's the instrumental again. G major, C major, G major, C major, G major, C major, G major, C major. And to finish off the instrumental, we use D major. Okay, and all I'm doing with my right hand is, watch, I pretty much the entire time have my thumb on G, my middle finger on B, and your right hand doesn't even have to move very much, okay? Your right hand's gonna play the melody, so it's just gonna do this. I mean, basically it's this. Okay, it's just to add a little bit of richness. Sometimes I recruit my thumb as well to just play notes that are consistent with the chord that's being played at the same time on my left hand. So if my left hand is playing G major, then my thumb will play G as well, because that's the chord it's in. And when my left hand plays C major, actually my thumb can still play G, because G is also within C major. So basically your thumb is just playing G, more or less, to go along with the melody every once in a while. Hell, you could probably just like play G the entire time if you wanted to. But in then it sounds boring, which is why I don't always do it. Okay, so that's the instrumental. We're gonna move on to verse number 1 now. Okay, verse number 1. So when we last left off, we just finished off with a D major at the end of the instrumental, okay? So while your left hand is still on the D major notes, your right hand is playing I'll be your, and then the first chord of the verse is G major. Mirror, reflect what you, C major, are, in case you don't, D major, no, I'll be the, and then we start all over again. So it's very easy. It's essentially just D major, G major, and then C major. Just those 3 chords, okay? I'll be your mirror. That's G major. Reflect what you are. That's C major. In case you don't, and then D major. Okay, and then just repeat that again. I'll be the G major, wind, the rain, and the C major, sunset, the light on your D major, door, to show that you're home, and then back to G major. So that's verse 1, very easy. Just need to know 3 chords: D major, G major, and C major, and you just repeat it again. So that's verse 1. So again, my left hand is really just playing just a basic triplet of G, B, D, maybe a tetrad of C major, and maybe a tetrad of D major. It doesn't really matter how you play it. I mean, if you wanted to, you could just do this. Or you could play, I don't know, something fancier. Doesn't really matter as long as you're just playing some pattern of the chords. What's important is that your left hand is playing notes consistent with the chord, okay? Cool, so that's verse number 1, then we're going to move on to the chorus. Okay, so the chorus. Chorus is also really easy. You only really need to know 3 chords again. So it sounds like this. So the chorus, it's basically 3 lines that are repeated. The first line is, when you think the night has seen your mind. Second line, that inside you're twisted and unkind. Third line, let me stand to show that you are blind. These 3 lines, they all follow the same pattern. We start off with G major. When you think the C major. Night has D major. Senior. Back to G major. My. Now repeat that. G major. That inside your C major. Twisted. D major. And then G major. Kind. Once again, we repeat it with G major. Let me stand to C major. Show that D major. You are. Back to G major. Blind. Okay, so first 3 lines of the chorus, very easy, just 3 chords repeated 3 times. The last line of the chorus is a little bit different, okay? Now once again, we're going to start off with G major. Please put down your, and then A minor. Hands, 'cause I see. C major. You, and then D major. Okay? So, if you notice the entire time, okay, in the instrumental and the verse, and the first 3 quarters of the chorus, it's always just the same 3 chords, a G major, a C major, and a D major. For the first time, we see a new chord, and that's an A minor chord, okay? Please put down your hands. Okay, that's A minor. A, C, E. I have it inverted on E. Hands, just because it happens to be very close to where my fingers already are when I was last playing G major. Please put down your... So notice how my left hand, the fingers just kind of slide down a little bit, okay? From the D slides down to a C, B slides down to an A, and my pinky slides down to E. Hands, 'cause I see, okay? 'Cause I see. C major. And then D major. Okay, so at the end of the chorus, there's this little bit of the bass line going. That's basically just, yeah, the G and A notes. I like to play with my right hand, and I'll just let my left hand play the D major chord. Okay, so there you have it. That's the chorus. Okay, once the chorus is done, then it's just a matter of playing an instrumental, which is the exact same instrumental we played last time. Okay. The only difference is instead of repeating it 4 times, you just repeat it 2 times instead. So yeah, the instrumental is done, and then we move into verse 2. Okay, verse 2 is I find it hard to believe you don't know the beauty you are, but if you don't, let me in your heart, enter your darkness so you won't be afraid. Basically the same thing as verse 1, okay? And then after verse 2 is the chorus, which is the exact same way you play it as before, and I'll go through it. Okay, so here's verse 2. Chorus time. Okay, so at the very end is this little, I don't know what you would call it, maybe like a coda, where it's kind of like, just like, I'll be your mirror, I'll be your mirror. And to play that, it's just, it's really just 2 chords with your left hand, G major and C major. Okay? Your right hand, position it as follows. Have your thumb move up to B and your index finger on the D note. This is what I'm doing with my right hand. It's basically the first couple of notes of the G major chord inverted on a B, so B, B, and I'm gonna roll my middle finger and my 4th finger, E and F sharp, back to D, and repeat. Meanwhile, your left hand is playing G major, C major, G major. Sometimes I'll do this other thing too. So the first time, and then the second time. In which case I also co-opt my pinky to play G. So just play around with that. And that's basically the very simplified way of playing I'll Be Your Mirror. Okay, so the more complicated way is very similar to, or rather it builds on the simplified version that I just talked about before. So let's start off with the instrumental, okay? So in the vanilla way, you're just talking about G major and C major. So all that playing is just two chords like over and over and over and over, and you know, I mean, I imagine that sounds kind of like boring and repetitive after a while. So one way to kind of spice it up is you can replace the pair G major and C major with the following. You can start off with just G major, and then while doing G major, you can also turn it into a G major 7th chord. Okay, so you start with G major and then you turn it into a G major 7th simply by adding F sharp. Okay, so I'm gonna let my left hand take care of that. So, and then C major. So what I do is at the tail end of the C major, I also throw in a diminished chord. Okay, so that's basically A, C, E flat. It has this very dissonant sounding quality to it. That's why you don't keep it on for very long, but you just throw it in a little bit. It's kind of like a spice or something like that. You know, it makes things seem a little bit more interesting. So now we've got this. Now you don't have to use this alternate method all the time. One thing you can do is you can sort of alternate between the vanilla way of playing it with my way. Okay, so whatever you want. You can do 4 pairs of vanilla, or 4 pairs of this alternate. Or you can do 2 and 2, whatever you want, okay? It's up to you. Alright, so that's the instrumental part. Okay, verse 1. Playing my style is very similar to playing verse 1 in the simplified version. But again, we're just tacking on a couple of chords for a very short amount of time. So, at the end of the instrumental, I'll be your mirror. Just turn that G major into a G major 7th towards the very end, okay? You can do that just by adding F sharp to the G major chord. Reflect what you are, in case you don't know. So, again, at the very end of the C major chord, tack on an A diminished chord. So, C major, and then A, C, E flat. Do that right before turning into a D major. Okay? That's basically what my version of it is. Without doing it, just leaving it simplified, it would just be G major, C major, D major. Okay? Jazzing it up, it would sound like this. Okay? So, that's basically it. It's not even that hard, really. I'll be your mirror, reflect what you are, in case you don't know. And then repeat. Be the wind, the rain and the sunset, the light on your door, to show that you're home. Okay? And that's verse 1, using my little, I guess, like flavor enhancements. Now we're going to move on to the chorus. The chorus, I like to keep it very similar and faithful to the vanilla version. Okay, the only time I add a flavor enhancement is just turning the G major chord into a G major 7th chord. at the very end of each repetition. So here's the chorus. When you think the night has seen your mind. Okay, so when you think the C major night has D major seen your G major mind. And to make it like enhanced, I'll turn it into a G major 7. Just by the very simple inclusion of the F sharp note. Let inside your twisted and unkind. Let me stand to show that you are blind. Please put down your A minor hands. Now one tip for making this part sound fancy is your left hand plays A minor inverted on E, so nothing unusual yet. But I also like to have my index finger play the B note as well at the same time. You can do it at the same time, or you can play it just sort of like a broken chord. I actually don't know what this chord is called. An A, C, E, and B, or basically an A minor plus the B note. I don't think it has a name, but you know, I mean, like I'm not like a pro musician or anything. Maybe there is. But yeah, this is what I like to play as the last chord in the chorus. Okay, it makes it sound a little bit more sophisticated. So once again, here's the chorus. When you think the night has seen your mind. See that G major 7th? Let inside your C major, twisted D major, and then G major, G major 7th. Let me stand to C major, show that D major, you are G major, blind, G major 7. Please put down your A minor. And to make it sound a little bit more interesting, I'm going to also add on the B note with my left hand. Cause I see C major, D major. Okay, and there you have it. Then we move on to instrumental 2, which is exactly the same as instrumental 1. Verse 2, which is, I find it hard to believe you don't know the beauty you are, but if you don't, let me in your heart, enter your darkness so you won't be afraid, which is the same thing as verse 1. So if you're curious, you can go back earlier in this video and check that out. And then we go on to the chorus, which we've already played, and then the part that I find really interesting is the very end coda. So when I first taught like the simplified version, I said to do this. So very easy, I mean, like you would just do 2 chords, G major, C major, G major, C major. Okay, now to do it my way, which is sort of like the fancy way, first I like to slow down the tempo a bit, and it'll end up sounding a little bit, and doing a couple of changes. Alright, now the way I like to play the ending coda, again, it's going to take advantage of the G major 7th chord as well as the A diminished chord, okay? And I'm going to use them exactly the same way I used before, basically using the G major 7th chord to spice up the very end of your G major chord, and using the A diminished chord as a sort of like a tail end thing you kind of add to a C major chord. So I slow the tempo down a little bit, and I'm going to do this. So what I do with my left hand is I'm playing the G major 7th chord actually to start off with, actually. Okay, now technically what I'm trying to do is this. Okay, okay? And then I'm gonna try to move my thumb up here, but my hand isn't big enough to do that. So what I do instead is actually an easy way to remember it. Start off just playing sort of like the G major 7th chord, and then just move your left hand into a D major position. Your right hand gets into position here, okay, with your thumb on the B and your index finger on D. Same melody as always, as played in a simplified version. And then your left hand is doing this. C major tetrad. And then moves up to this position, okay, the A diminished chord. And we're going to use the thumb of our left hand to sort of play a melody. So note that every time every time the melody is moving, the same 3 notes are being played by your pinky, middle finger, and your index finger. So A, C, and E flat. This will really give the A diminished character. Your thumb is the one that's sort of like dictating the melody at this point. So the only thing I do with my thumb is this. Okay, in fact my thumb isn't even doing this part, it's just doing this. Oops, sorry. Okay? And then we reset right back to G major 7th. Or you can reset back to G major and then jump right back in with G major 7th. And then one thing you can do before ending is do a sort of C minor and then G major. And that's a nice way to finish things off, okay? So to wrap up, My Fancy Way is actually remarkably similar to the simplified version. The only thing I'm really doing is substituting G major with a combination of G major and G major 7th. Okay? And really G major 7 is very simply the G major chord plus F sharp. Second secret behind the Fancy Way is replacing C major with a combination of C major and the A diminished chord, which is basically A, C, and E flat. Okay? And what was it? The last trick, or the last thing that distinguishes it is sort of just the way I play the very ending coda, which is sort of a little bit more mournful, I guess, a little bit slower instead of just playing the jolly. Which is a little bit sugar sweet. I like to make it sound a little bit more dreary and dreamlike, I guess. So that's basically it. Hopefully this tutorial was okay and acceptable. I realize I didn't, like hold your hand and take you through every single individual note my right hand plays, but that's just because that would take a very long time, and also probably my right hand's doing a little something different every time I play the song. The only thing that stays consistent, really, is the chord progression, okay? The whole... But yeah, I mean the video is always going to be here, so you'll know what to do with your left hand, and then your right hand is basically a matter of, like self-discovery, of learning it yourself, adapting what you hear. Whoops, unfortunately, my camera kind of died literally as I was about to say the last thing I did. But yeah, in conclusion, hopefully you find this tutorial helpful. The simplified way should be a really easy way to start. And then when you're feeling a little bit more ambitious, try out the more fancy way if you want to. Yeah, again, I know I didn't tell you each single individual note my right hand plays, but really what's most important is that you get the chord progression down with your left hand, and then you can more or less sound it out with your right hand. It's a good sort of skill set to have anyways, because, unless there's a tutorial for every song you learn, it's really useful to be able to sort of figure songs out on your own. And to do that, you're going to have to be able to sort of sound things out, as it were. So yeah, go on, have fun with this song, and thanks for watching. Bye.